China facing continued pressure from Washington, looking elsewhere for bulwarks, and that would include trade power, the European Union. Top diplomat Wang Yi headed to that region next week, that trip coming ahead of the China-EU summit in July. China's foreign ministry pointing to an increasing build-up of trade barriers. Starting Monday, Mr. Wang will travel to Brussels, France and Germany. He will also meet EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas, where there could be some tough conversations, with the bloc repeatedly expressing concern over what it sees as Beijing's unfair economic practices. European leaders facing their own pressures from Washington as they work to finalize a trade proposal with the United States. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says she received the latest document for further negotiations, but stopped short of revealing Washington's precise demands. And more, Will Denselow joins us live from Brussels. Will, Wang Yi, that's China's top diplomat, heading to Europe next week. It has been a consistent mission of Beijing to extend its relations with the European Union, especially as it faces pressure from Washington. For this specific visit, would Wang Yi have any precise mission goals?
Well, there is certainly seen as the potential for closer collaboration between the two sides, given the fact that this is a year that they mark 50 years of diplomatic relations between the EU and China, and given the fact that the two account for nearly 30% of global trade. President Xi Jinping has stated that they hope to see an opening up for a brighter future. However, relations have become increasingly frosty, really, over the past 12 months. The EU imposing those tariffs on Chinese-made electric vehicles to up to 38%. Also, in recent weeks, the EU blocking, essentially, Chinese firms' access to EU medical devices worth over $5 million. And now we also heard some incredibly tough rhetoric from Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, speaking at the G7, where she said China was unwilling to live within the constraints of the rules-based international system. In response, we heard from Beijing describing those remarks as baseless and biased. We also know that that Beijing is conducting its own studies into the import of brandy coming from the EU, as well as French cognac. So there's certainly a tit-for-tat move seen on both sides. But there are reports that perhaps that cognac dispute could be resolved if there is movement on the EV dispute. That, according to reporting from Reuters. Now, we have heard from Kaja Kallas, who invited Wang Yi for these talks in Brussels. She has called for a dose of realism going forward when it comes to relations between the two sides.
And Will, the European Union would not like to be facing pressure from two fronts. So China is one, Washington as well, the EU, like every other country and bloc, facing potential tariffs on that rough deadline of the 9th of July. It has received new proposals on possibly resolving these issues on tariffs, at least for now, from the US. President Ursula von der Leyen saying all options remain on the table in these negotiations.
That's absolutely right. And the European Commission has been tight-lipped, as it has done for weeks on these negotiations, simply telling the press that they are ongoing and that they are intensifying as, of course, that July 9th deadline approaches. That, even so, has been cast into doubts after Caroline Levitt, White House press secretary, suggested that July 9th deadline might, in fact, be flexible. Now, we know that at the European Leaders Summit that concluded late on Thursday here in the Belgian capital, von der Leyen had the opportunity to provide that text from the US. She says that they're going through it without providing further details on it. And while it is the European Commission that is handling these negotiations directly with the US, of course, this will impact the 27 member states incredibly. This was certainly an opportunity for those member states to get their point across, to express those concerns, considering billions of dollars could potentially be on the line. Germany, particularly sensitive, considering their auto sector already exposed to 25% duties, and with that being such a key part of their economy, that's seen as incredibly pressing, perhaps why Friedrich Merz, the German Chancellor, said that they were hoping for a quick and simple deal with Washington.
Well, thanks. Will Denselow there speaking to us live from Brussels.